I'm going to be referring to some PDFs and showing you some training tonight. And this is the only link you need. And I'll have a QR code for it in a moment if you just want to scan it. But this is Coach Jay Johnson /blog /Michigan coaches. I'm putting the recording of this video, the recording of last night's video, the track training essentials, which is the free 45 page, actually it's 40 page PDF. All that information is there. Also some things like links to, articles where we talk about, hey, what are the workouts we use? Just like we talk about in here to build the aerobic engine, right? You have to build the aerobic engine. What are those workouts? Those are all in there as well. So all that stuff is in there, and just make sure that you get that. Yeah, and if you're just joining, chime in with what state you're in, and if you coach boys or girls or both. So yeah, it's great to see everybody. We're gonna hop right into it. So this is a little bit of review for people who are here last night. Oh, well, there's the QR code right there. So if you want to scan it, if you're in front of a computer, you can scan it. That'll take you to this as well. And I will put this link up here multiple times. Okay, a little bit about me. I ran 4:25 and 9:45 in 1994. And as I'm looking at that, yes, those are slow times. But back in the 90s, that allowed me to walk on at the University of Colorado. We will give a little asterisk for altitude. That's maybe 420 and maybe like 933. But still, it's not 410 and it's not 910, right? I was on that team that was featured in Running with the Buffaloes, written by Chris Lear, fantastic guy. I was the slowest guy on that team. I was the seventh runner. But I did run fast enough in track, and I studied enough that I was the athletic department's male scholar athlete my fifth year when I was in graduate school. And then in graduate school, I got a degree, a master's in kinesiology and applied physiology. And so from a coaching standpoint, once I had that degree, I went to coach at a junior college as my first coaching job, Pratt Community College, Pratt, Kansas. And then I coached at the University of Colorado as an assistant cross-country coach, middle distance coach, and the recruiting coordinator for 6 years. Pre-NIL, much simpler times. Then I was a stay-at-home dad after that, but I also was coaching some, what I'd say, semi-pro athletes and some professional athletes. So I coached a guy who won the U.S. cross-country championship, as well as a woman who won the indoor 3K title, and a guy who won the men's 25K title. So cross-country, track, and on the roads, coached some people who qualified for the USATF outdoor meet too. But when it comes to high school coaching, during that entire time, I ran a camp at CU, a camp for high school runners for 18 years called the Boulder Running Camps. So I was interacting with high school students and high school coaches. Probably in the last 6 or 7 years, we would have 300 kids each summer, maybe as much as 350. So a lot of kids came to camp. We just finished the Boulder Running Clinics 2 weeks ago. That's a clinic in Colorado. If you've never been to it, please join us next year. It's always Martin Luther King weekend. We had coaches from 33 states. And then the thing that really is, we're going to talk about training tonight for my track training system. So I'm really blessed to be able to make a living in running, specifically high school running. I sell things like, the book Consistency is Key, but I also have these 2 training systems, and this is the 4th year of the track training system. So, and yeah, welcome to all the people who are joining in. Good to see everybody. So we'll go. What are we going to talk about tonight? Last night, I left people with this question. So, and if you're wondering, what did we talk about last night? We talked about extending the aerobic stimulus was a big part of what we talked about last night. We also talked briefly about some of the chapters in Consistency is Key. And the bottom line is, I'm going to pull it up here again. As long as you go to that URL I shared, that site, or not that site, it's my website, but that web page has the recording from last night's video in there. And I actually cut out the first 2 or 3 minutes, where we're introducing people and basically doing this stuff right here. So you just go right into the learning portion of that. So if you missed last night, no big deal. But the question, and it's not a big deal at all, but I left, everybody with this question. Think about your favorite coach at your school who coaches a ball sport. What I mean by that is football or basketball or softball, right? Any ball sport. if they came to your track practice and watched one of your true middle distance runners, your true 800, 1600-meter kid, hopefully a little bit athletic, sort of fast, right? Not as fast as your sprinter, but has some speed. What questions would they have? And what I think they would say is, wait, do you guys ever scrimmage? We always do scrimmages. Or do you ever do, like in basketball, you might do some fast break stuff where it's 3-on-2, and then the other team, after the ball is scored, rebounded, somebody else joins in, and now it's 3-on-2 going the other way. And it's at game speed. So it's a drill, and it's not 5-on-5 normal basketball, but it's something that's replicating that. So they do things in practice that they're going to do at game speed. And I think sometimes we need to forget, obviously, for our 800-meter runners, we don't have 5 days a week where, hey, let's go out and run an 800 as hard as we can to get better at the 800. We know that's silly. But I think we also need to say, what specificity should our practices have? So tonight, multiple times, we're going to talk about a 220 girl, okay? And we're, I'm going to say that a 220 girl should be able to go out and 68 point, and that means a 200 in 34 flat from a standing start. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't right now, I'm going to make that argument later. When does she do that? It's February 5th. Monday is February 10th. Does she do it the week of February 10th? February 17th, February 24th. When does she do that? Here's the deal. If you want to break 220 2 months from today, April 6th, I want you thinking tonight, when is she going to do that? Hey, and one other thing, this is kind of a tangent. If you're somebody who's on Twitter or you're on Instagram and you want to take a photo of what we're doing tonight, I'm always at Coach J on all the social media platforms. So sometimes it's fun when somebody tags, takes a photo of what we're doing. But going back to this girl, how would a coach design training for this girl to be ready to break 220? And what are we going to do in practice, just like your other coaches in your school do in practice to get her ready to do that? Well, like we talked about last night, obviously they need to practice race pace during practice. And so what are you doing in those practices? So I want the sub 220 process to be starting with strides on day one. And this is really important. I know the coaches in Michigan don't have official practice till March. On the first day of official practice, they're doing strides. They don't have to do speed development. Now, if I was in Michigan, we might do speed development because I've been doing this long enough. I would know how to keep the kids healthy doing that. And I know there's a lot of coaches who are in my track training system who've done things for a year who can do it that way. But at a minimum, we should be running 5K rhythm for 20 seconds, 4 or 5 times the very first day of practice, right? So this is all in the Track Training Essentials PDF. And I'm going to put that in the chat here. This is, if you just go to that webpage that says Michigan Coaches, this is on there. And you just share your email and you're able to get this for free. But know that that's on there. And then what I want to talk about now is this document, okay? So this training, this is the actual training that I use in my track training system. And so what Track Training Essentials is, just think of it as that's the free stuff. 5 weeks of training for every level of my kids, from the kids who are in the quote, no prior training plan. Those are your kids, like in Michigan and Wisconsin, who are going to come out for practice in a few weeks, having done, they won't have done a thing. And that's maybe one of the most powerful documents in this 40-page PDF, is because you're going to have 5 weeks of training that's going to keep them healthy and acknowledges that in the 3rd or 4th week, these kids need to race. So what I wanted to do now is I recorded something that's really short. It's just, it's about 6 minutes, where sometimes it's helpful for me to record this and go through this now. So I'm going to walk through what we would do during these days. And the bottom line is you have the first 5 weeks of winter training for free in this document. We're actually going to look into, hey, what are we doing on day one? And we're really going to look at this progression of strides and how we're going to be moving towards 220. So here we go. Did prior to you do. Okay, we're going to go over this so you understand how we're doing strides in the first 5 weeks of the season, and also how we're doing this Thursday workout. So first of all, this is in the Track Training Essentials. I'll be honest, this is V1 of the Track Training Essentials, and I'm going to update this in the next 4 or 5 days. And so if you enroll in the I don't even want to say enroll in the track training system. Basically, if you share your email, you get this 40-page document, and just know that you'll get this updated one where I'm going to put 2 more things in there. So I'm going to put this Thursday workout progression, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I'll put in the long run, this is the long run 60 plan, and this is V3. So currently in the Track Training Essentials, we're working with the V2s, and V just means version. Okay, long run 60. The bottom line is we look at how do we figure out what training plan do we put people on? We take their 3 longest runs that they did prior to you doing my training system, or you doing the free training here in the Track Training Essentials. So if an athlete, let's say in the months of September and October in cross country, got to a 70-minute long run, we'll say their average of their 3 highest runs is 70. We're going to bump it down by 10 minutes because, like we talked about in the previous class, we've got the warm up, we've got the post run work. So it's going to be a long day. So we want to keep the running a little bit shorter. Now, over the course of 5 weeks, they will get back to their 70-minute run down here. So they will eventually get to a 70-minute run. And because we're extending the aerobic stimulus, they're going to have a much longer day. But I just want to go through this quickly. So on day 1, we're doing 4 by 20-second strides at the 15-minute mark. Then we're doing a fartlek, strides on Wednesday, strides on Thursday, and then strides on Friday. These are just at 5K pace, okay? Or excuse me. These strides should follow the progression of strides. And I don't have that pulled up, but I'll pull it up because you'll get it in the Track Training Essentials. Where is it? So many documents, but that's why it's awesome. This 40-page document. Okay, progression of stride. So 4 by 20 seconds at 5K effort. And then we're going to do 5 by 20 seconds at 5K. And then when we get to C, and again, we're just going based on how the athletes feel. We're doing 20 seconds at 5K effort, and then they get down to 3,200 meters. And then starting at 5K, getting down to 1,600. And then eventually they're going to be running 800-meter efforts. So I just want to show you that we're doing strides in week 1. Now, what's new in version 3 of this training is that when we get, and I'm just going to skip through this. Basically, we're doing a workout to build the aerobic engine on Tuesday, a long run on Saturday. And I like doing the long run on Saturday just because it's warmer and there's more light. So I'd have athletes sleep in, maybe meet them at 9 or 10 a.m., have them do the workout or the long run then. But now we're going to the track, okay? And so this is what our track workout is. I could read it off of here, but I'm just going to read it. Well, yeah, I'm going to read it off of here because it's going to be a little easier. Oh, I deleted it somehow. Okay, I'll read it off of here. Okay, so what we're doing is now this is for an athlete who's going to do a 60-minute long run. We're going to do 25 minutes running to the track. In some of these other plans, they might only run 10 or 15 minutes, okay? But this first one, 25 minutes to the track. Then we're going to change into waffles or spikes. So yes, on Thursday on week 2, so basically the 10th day of training, we're going to change into spikes. 4 by 120 at 1,600-meter goal pace, and ending, and then the 4th one should be at 800-meter goal pace. And when I say goal, this is what we hope they run in May, okay? And a 120, that's the little triangle in lane 1. So it's the beginning of the acceleration zone, but really it's kind of like a 150, right? Because when we're kind of lined up with the field goal post, middle of the curve, we want them building up, and then boom, when they hit that little triangle, they should be at that rhythm. Now, we're not timing these. I say 600-meter goal pace. This first week, you don't really have to time them. I would let them run by feel. I don't want them looking at their Coros watch on every one of these. But if you can be on the back stretch, trying to time some of the kids, that's ideal. So anyway, then easy the next day, then a long run. Next week, we're doing the same thing, but then we're going to add a 300 where you go fast, faster, fastest, okay? Now, in between these 4, so the 4 by 120 was the same thing. Then we take a full lap jog, and then we're going to do that 1 by 300 where you go fast, faster, fastest, just like we talk about in consistency is key, okay? And this last 100 of that 300 is not all out, but this is a great way to get them really, really turning over. And then what I want to highlight here is that in week 4, in this training, it says 37-minute run with a progression of strides as part of the run. This is a point where you can also say, hey, I don't really want to extend the aerobic stimulus on this day. I want to take a break, have them spike up again, and I want to run some faster strides. I'll leave that up to you. If you have the true 800, 1600 meter runner, that's what I would do here. Because remember, we're building the aerobic engine on Tuesday with the workout and on Saturday with the long run. Wednesday's an easy day where we build it. Friday's an easy day where we build it. And even the track workout on Thursday, we still run for 30 minutes. And even on this day, Monday, we still run for 30 minutes. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in here. You know, if you're wondering what's the red post run, what's the orange post run, that is all in here. Here it is in here. Yeah, so bottom line is you want to make sure you get the track training essentials document. And then I have a way in my email system where I'll know if you've downloaded that. And then that'll allow me to send you the link to the updated one. I'm recording this on February 6th, 2025. I'll have it to you by early next week. Okay. All right. Let me know if you have any questions about that so far. Oh, that's the wrong little video. This is the right one. There we go. And first of all, sorry that the volume wasn't quite right. I need to do a little more prep. I obviously videoed that on the same computer and whatnot. I did that today. I should give myself a little more time and then up the volume and then play it here and all those things. But so hopefully that wasn't too much of a pain. Yeah. So just to be clear, you can, when you get to, I just want to show you the track training essentials. So here it is. And I explain hard days hard, easy days easy, the phases of the training, the no prior training, all this stuff. But then I give you, here's what we're actually doing. And it's broken down. I'll zoom this in a little bit. It's broken down into, hey, teal days are challenging aerobic workouts. We're going to do a fartlek the first day. We're going to do a long run Saturday. I like doing the long run Saturday. I know it's hard to meet the kids. That's another day you're taking out of your personal life, your family life. But hey, it's going to be warmer and there's going to be more sun, rather than saying we're going to work out Monday and then we're going to do our long run Friday. That is fine, but I do like this better. And then I need to update this. We're going to start doing this baby track workout already on Tuesdays, we're going to do it on week 2. And, but I think the colors are really helpful. And then what I do is I just explain, okay, here's what everything in that document is. And then here's all the training plans. Long run 60. That's for kids who could do a 70-minute long run in cross country. We're bumping them down by 10 minutes, but we're going to build back up to that. And I explained that in the class last night. Long run 30. And then what do we have here? Where's no prior training? And then long run 60, long run 30, long run 45, long run 70. This is the no prior training kids. So you've got a lot of different options in there. Eric Detman spoke at the Michigan clinic and was in person, and then spoke at the Boulder Running Clinics. Always great to see you. I am very excited about next Wednesday. 7 days from today, I get to be on the Low Stick podcast. Eric, feel free to share that URL to your podcast in there. Great podcast with Jason Retz, who's the coach at St. Joseph Ogden, and they're featured in Consistency is Key. So, we have small schools featured in here as well. Jesse Magato's team from Minster, Ohio. I know that's a little bit of a tangent. Gerald, can I assume we can find all of these docs in the track training system? Absolutely. So, and Jerry, this, I'm just sharing 5 weeks from for everybody in here. In the track training system, we have 8 weeks in our phase 1. And then obviously you have 24 weeks of training for all the levels of kids. And yeah, so all that's in there. Oh, okay. Let's switch back to our slides now, unless there's any questions. And I brought this one up just to make sure that, hey, if you want to scan the QR code now, You'll definitely be able to get this free 40-page PDF, but that QR code just takes you to this page that has the recordings and all the good stuff. Okay, this is a fun one. Now we're going to switch gears because we're going to go fast, faster, fastest. That was a dad joke. It might not be funny to anybody else. At what point in a 1600 in a competitive race, like Eric's in the state of Oregon, and his kids have to run against his friend Thor's kids, okay? And granted, they run the 1500, but for argument's sake, they're going to run the 1600. When do his kids have to make a move if they're going to advance to the state championship, right? And I would like to propose that we want them to be able to rip the last 500. So roughly at the 1100 meter mark, right? So they've run, they're on their third lap and they're coming into the home stretch. See, here's the deal. Everybody waits till the bell lap. Well, everybody starts speeding up at the bell lap. One of the nice things about what I'm about to teach you is when you have kids start to move on the home stretch going into the bell lap, they're going to catch some people by surprise. But more importantly, I think now your freshmen won't be able to execute this. And what I teach in the track training system is for a freshman in the 1600, if we can just make the last 300 awesome, that's great. But for your older kids who are trying to qualify for state or are trying to, like in Texas, get out of the district and get to regionals, if they made regionals, that'd be big. I think we want 200 fast, so home stretch, first curve, then the next 200. Now we're going faster on the backstretch, faster on the second curve. And what's fastest? The last home stretch, right? The last 100 meters. So that's what we want to be doing. And my question to you is, what's a workout that would empower them to do that, right? So if you don't have a workout where the kids are changing gears, and just as an aside, fast, faster, fastest is not only a chapter in consistency is key, it's the athlete's favorite chapter. And part of the reason, it took me a while to figure this out. Probably it's just, fast, faster, fastest is kind of catchy, but I think it's because they know that if they want to run big PRs and they want to run well in these competitive races, and I do think the 1600 is a great race. I think it's the race that, when in doubt, put the kids in the 1600, your juniors and your seniors, because they're going to learn race skills. Freshmen and sophomores, I think a lot of 800s are good. But the bottom line is, do you have a workout right now where kids are changing gears? And if not, we're gonna dive into one. So how about we do your normal repeat 400s workout for about half the workout, and then let's do a wrinkle for the next half. And I promise I will come back to everybody's question in a little bit later. I see Folsom's question. I see Danny's question. And I'm gonna keep going through the slides, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. Okay, so here's what we're doing. Let's do 4x400 at 1600 meter goal pace with your normal rest. And some people do a 60-second walk, some people do 90 seconds walk, jog, whatever it is. But then this is the new thing. You're going to take 3 to 5 minutes of walking and jogging so they're really recovered, okay? Now we're going to execute that 500, and just a little, nuance thing with the 500, we're going to do a run in, okay? We're going to do 300. Oh, that's a mess up. It shouldn't say 300 at goal pace. It should say 200 at goal pace. Okay, so the pace they're hoping to. So this first 500, the first 200 of it is the pace you're hoping they're going to run in May. So they're really just going to speed up twice. So they run that for 200. Then the next 200 is fast, and then the last 100 is faster. But it's not all out. And why? Because the workout's not over. Then we're doing another 3 to 5 minutes of walking and jogging. And then on this last 500, let's go. Let's really, they want to rip this one. So the first 200 is fast. The next 200 is faster. The last 100 is fastest. And they should finish saying, "Coach, that was close to a race effort." Obviously, we don't want the kids racing in practice. But one of the things that I see too often with programs, and I talked about this last night, is the hard days aren't hard enough. Okay. If you're have a chunk in your schedule in the months of March and especially in April where you're not going to race for a week, you need to get after it at race pace. Your 1600 meter runner needs to get really close to a race effort. Because if a high school kid goes 2 weeks and all they do are long runs and threshold runs and maybe some strides at 5K pace, That's not enough specificity early in April. And granted, I'm somebody who ran in the 1990s in high school and college, and I understand how if you've been in the sport for 20 or 30 years, it seems like, oh, if we do that, we're going to peak too early. Get that out of your mind. The best kids in the country are running awesome week after week after week. Okay, so just trust me that this is the type of approach you want, and you want your hard days to be really hard. The flip side is you want your easy days to be really easy. Eric and I both heard Dr. Jeff Messer speak at the Boulder Running Clinics. He had this guy Jojo Jordine, who won NXN in 2023, and then that winner broke 4 minutes in the mile. That kid did these crazy long runs that anywhere from 13 to 15 miles. The last 5 miles would be in the 5:30, 5:40 pace. And then he'd run some really fast 100 meters, sometimes 8 or 10 by 100 meters at 15 seconds or faster at the end of that workout. Now, that's a crazy hard day. Most high school kids couldn't handle that. But the day before, he's just running 30 or 35 minutes. Really easy, right? So that just really supported. It was nice to hear a conference. I'm just like you. When I go to a clinic, I want to hear something new that clicks that I know I can use. I also want to have confirmation that what I'm doing is right. I got the confirmation from Jeff. Hard days really hard, easy days easy. And then the new thing is, and coaches in the track training system, this is coming next week. We're gonna look at, if you've been in the cross country training system and the track training system, we're gonna steal that page out of Jeff's playbook, and we're gonna put some fast strides at the end of our long run. So I'll go into that next week. But here's the bottom line with this workout: if they're gonna run 1,600 meters for the 4x400, and then 2 500s is 1,000 meters for a total of 2,600 meters. Now, you should probably be saying, Jay, we typically run, 8x400, so that's 3,200 meters of volume. I'm worried we didn't run enough. Trust me on this. You did a better job of getting them A, ready to PR, and B, you're getting them ready to run their best races when place is going to matter, right? You're setting them up, and not in a crazy tactical race where like the Olympic final that Matt Sinchewitz won, where they're like jogging for 1,000 meters. Maybe they didn't jog. Maybe they jogged for 800 meters, and then they're just ripping it and going really fast, right? But on days at districts and regionals and conference meets where kids are doubling, sometimes tripling, we know that sometimes they're going to have to run well in a tactical race. So you set the kids up to PR when you've done this type of workout, and you gave them the skills and the confidence to be able to do this when they're going to have to change gears. Okay, but the crux, now it's in teal, because I want to highlight it's 3 to 5 minutes of walking and jogging after those 400s, because this 500 is going to be harder than you think and probably harder than they think. And then the second 500, the same thing. I don't want them completely recovered, but I want them getting close to completely recovered. And I'd much rather have an athlete. This is a really important point, so I'm going to look you in the eye. I'd much rather take more rest and have that last 500, have both of you say, oh my gosh, that was awesome, right? If you've been in the sport for 20 years, get this out of your mind. This idea of puking over the fence is not what we want to see. Now, granted, this workout's going to be really hard. What's this is a quiz. What's the fastest 100 of this entire workout? It's the 20 from 2,500 meters to 2,600 meters. It's the last 100 of the whole workout. And I would push back on the workouts you did as an athlete or the workouts your athletes do. If they do 8x400, is their last 100, is their fastest 100 of the day always the last 100 of the entire workout? So all my workouts, we want kids doing that. And now you have a 1,600 meter workout. This is also a huge opportunity for your athletes mentally to visualize, hey, in the race, when it's 500 to go, I'm going to be flying. Anytime I'm on the track with 300 to go, I can speed up. Anytime I'm on the track with 100 meters to go, I really speed up, right? So when we change gears in practice, that's a mental opportunity for them to basically rehearse that in their mind. And all you have to do is just tell them, hey, part of today's practice is I want you locked in and thinking about how this is going to feel during the race. So explain to your athletes that obviously this is going to advance their fitness. It's going to empower them to be able to switch gears, but it's also going to be able to prepare them mentally to do this as long as they stay focused. So what don't we want? We don't want them we don't want them zoning out. I'm going to pop in Rogers here. My biggest takeaway are fast, faster, fastest, and running by feel. Yeah. So so things in these training systems, like I talked about last night, learning to run by feel is important. And I think if you can teach your kids fast, faster, fastest, but again, I'm saying teach your kids. You have to set up the workouts. So if you leave with one thing tonight, it's this: how do the workouts that I assign, that I write, how do they set kids up to be able to replicate what they'll need to do in the race? Right now, we're about to go on a deep dive of how's a girl going to break 220, but it's the same thing. We're going to set up practices for this girl so she runs the first 200 and the first 400 in the same paces that she's going to have to run to break 220. Okay. So if we have questions, we'll come back to that. What type of workout do we need to assign to have them break 220? Okay. I think a better question is, what race modeling do we need to do in these workouts? And to answer that question, we've got to know what splits the likely run. So race modeling is just a term. My friend Jeff Bollet uses it a lot. How do we model things in practice that's exactly like what's going to happen in the race? And in the 800, I want us to say, from a standing start, just like the race will be, what do they need to be able to come through 200 meters in? Okay. So keep that in the back of your head. Okay. So here's some sub 220 splits. They could go out in 69.2 and come back in 70. So every one of these is going to lead to them breaking 220. So that's 2:19.7, 1.5 second differential. That's option A. Option B, 69.70, obviously 2:19, and that's a 1 second differential. C, now we're going out a little faster, 68.5. We're coming back slower and we run 2:19.5. So of these three, we probably want B because they net run faster. But look at it this way: D, they could go out in 68.5, come back in 70.5, run 2:19 and 2. Let's well, I don't want to quiz people and embarrass people. Let's take a moment and figure out in your mind, you don't have to put it in the chat, which one you would go with. Okay. Okay, here we go. Which one is best? I like D. And here's why I like D, is because going out in 68.5, first of all, it's going to lead to them running under 2:19. Because don't you think sometimes, if you have, let's just go back to this first slide. If you have an athlete that is ready to break 220, don't you hope they'll break 2:19 pretty soon too? Like, of course, we're going to take 2:19.9, but wouldn't it be great if 3 weeks later they ran 2:18.9 or 2:18.5, right? So what I want you to do is set them up to be able to do that sooner rather than later, okay? And so that's why I really like going out in 68.5. We're going to set them up to do that now because I think this is something they could do. 68.5, 70. That's a 1.5 second differential. And they run 2:18.5. And then they become a 2:18 runner with a 68.5, 69.5. Or they break 2:18. And I know this is a big jump for the 220 person, but these aren't crazy splits. 68.5, 69.2. Now there's somebody who's been running a lot of 800s. They're able to do that. One of my college coach, Mark Wetmore, said a million things that were really smart, and some of them were brilliant. And I would say next logical step, and you hear this from other people, but man, I heard it from him all the time, both when I ran at CU and when I was coaching there. Let's always be thinking about what is the next logical step. And I think the next logical step for a 220 athlete is to run under 2:19. And if we can get them comfortable at 68.5, that let's go back just so you can see it. I don't think I have a slide up here. 68.5, 70.5 is 2:19. 68.5, 71 flat is 2:19.5. That a 2.5 second differential. If you're looking at C on here and you're saying, Jay, that's too much, it's not too much, especially for a high school kid. And I'll be honest, 68.5 is not fast. if you think about what that is in terms of running 100 meters in 17 seconds, it's not crazy fast. I think at the world-class level, we're going to want to scrunch these a little bit, and we don't want a 2.5-second differential. But I would take, a girl who hasn't broken 220, I want to see her going out in 68.5 because I think it eventually sets her up to break 219 and then to break 218. Okay, so I want her to be comfortable going out in 68.5. And how are we going to do that? We're going to assume that from a standing start, she's got to run 34 seconds, and then she can run 34.5 for the second 200. 34 from a standing start, so she's got to be able to run 17.0 from a standing start. Can we all, I'll let you look at that slide for a second. So I know I'm throwing a lot of splits and math at you. She needs to come through at 34. She might slow down that second 200 and run 34.5, but she's got to run 17.0. And honestly, she might even run a little faster from a standing start. And my question to you is, when are you going to have her doing that? And it's easy. You just follow the Track Training Essentials plan. You just follow this plan that you're going to get tonight for free. It's in that PDF. If you and it's got 5 weeks of training that you can do on Monday. Okay. I don't think I would do it midweek. It's Thursday night. I'd just wait till Monday to dive into this. And if you didn't join last night, I'd go back and watch last night's class, which is on that same page. So you can, last night, I'm basically trying to sell you on this idea of, if you buy into extending the aerobic stimulus by doing a warm up and then the run and then the post run work with no breaks, that's a big thing to get kids bought into. And you honestly might need the next 3 to 4 days to buy into it. It's like, by the time the Super Bowl kicks off, if you can buy into extending the aerobic stimulus, then you're ready to start doing this stuff on Monday. And then you just follow the Track Training Essentials. So you're in strides on day 1. You're doing that track workout in week 2. In week 3, you're doing a track workout on Thursday, and then we're going to run a 300 fast, faster, fastest. In week 4, we might be a little more aggressive with our strides on Monday. And for that, here, let me zoom this in so you can read it better. We might, for that true 800, 1600 meter runner, that's where we might say, hey, we're not extending the aerobic stimulus. We're just going to have her go for warm up, run, but then we're going to have her change her shoes, spike up, because she's already building the aerobic engine with the progression run or fartlek run or aerobic repeats on Tuesday. She's doing a long run Saturday. The other easy days are Wednesday and Friday. And I think it'd be fine on Monday for her to put some spikes on, because read that bottom point. The mistake you want to avoid is an athlete with a big engine, but who isn't comfortable coming through at 34.0 and 68.5. And as I look at this, that's not fast. 34.0 from a standing start. But the mistake too often is that it feels fast for the athlete. Can we all agree that if you have a girl who's run 222 or 223 last year, she should be able to come through at 68.5 feeling great? Is the 800 going to get hard? Yes, but it should get hard on the backstretch, not at the bell, right? So I'm going to, and we've got a lot of awesome things here in the chat. Danny's in the track training system. Roger's commenting on things. Really fun stuff. We'll hop into that in a second. But now week 5, same as week 4, though this week the volume and the intensity on Tuesday is high. We do the aerobic repeats for the first time. Oops, spelled workout wrong. And the long run from last week is getting kind of long. So, the week 4 long run's higher. The Tuesday workout's challenging. Then the week 5 long run's challenging. Now we're doing a lot. So I actually don't up anything on the track workouts those days. And that's where I would say something too, like these training plans are handwritten, right? It's not like I just, spit things out. And I do use, some equations to figure out, oh, should we do a 32-minute long or easy day or a 33-minute easy day, right? There's some little nuances in there. And people who are in the training systems know you end up doing either 30 or 35, but it's to get you as the coach thinking, hey, on a day that it said 30, or on a day when Jay's assigning 33, I don't want that to accidentally end up being 40. It's those types of mistakes with volume that compound and lead to injury. Okay. Now, if you're thinking, what about the 800 kids that didn't run XC? I love these kids. These are your more athletic kids, or kids who just are new to running but have a background doing something else. There's an 800-meter low volume plan that you'll want to use, and it's I can make a separate video if people in the comments want that. There's a lot of things I need to do in February, but I could do a free video on that because I really think that's one of the gems in this training plan. Probably the two most powerful thing, or the three most powerful things, are the progression of strides document, and then the no prior training plan, because you're going to use that. You'll absolutely use that. You're going to have kids coming out who've done no prior training. And then the 800-meter low volume plan might be for a kid who ran cross country, ran once or twice a week, ran cross country, wasn't very good at it, maybe played soccer before. I mean, there's things we can do with 800 runners, there's things we can do assigning freshmen and sophomores who haven't done a lot of running, having them run the 800, having them falling in love with track, so that when you get to June, now you have an athlete who's bought in, wants to train for cross country. Okay. So all of this is here. I'll put it in the chat here. The chat is rocking and rolling. And this, please make a separate video. A lot of the 800 runners, are football and soccer players? Awesome. You're going to have some great 4x8s. Okay, so here it is. You can either scan the QR code or it's here at that link. And yeah, just a quick plug for, I have a track training system, a cross-country training system. In basically digital education, they talk about your flagship courses. I don't really think of it as a course. I think of it as this living, breathing thing. I can't do unlimited emails, but you have email access to me. So there's one in track, one in cross country. They never go on sale, but there's monthly plans now and you have lifetime access. So you can do a monthly payment plan for a year and have it forever. So, okay. But this is the big one tonight, is make sure you scan that and get all the free goodies. And then if we run out of, if we want to talk about the splits for boys, I broke it down for the sub 2-minute boys as well. I mean, the math's pretty easy. It's the same slides, hopefully with no mathematical errors, but it's good for our brain. And just to skip ahead, that boy's got to get comfortable at 58.5, right? So he's got to get comfortable going out at, what would it be, 29.5? No, 58.5. I would want him going out at about 29. I didn't do that part. Anyway, and this is a great question. I don't have anything for runners or for jumpers and throwers. Feed the Cats by Tony Holler is what you want to do for sprinters. If you have the 400 to 800 kid who can run on your varsity 400, and you definitely need him on your state qualifying 4x8, we have training in the track training system for that athlete. So that athlete's taken care of. We have speed development for that athlete. But when we're looking at anything where 400 on down, that's where you go to Tony Holler. Okay. So if you have a question you want to re-ask, put it in the chat now. And Jerry said, can I assume we can find all these in the track training system? Absolutely. I see there's change in phase 1 in the TTF. Are there going to be changes to phase 2 or 3 posted? Not as much. And if you're wondering, what is phase 1 and 2 and 3? Phase 1 is when kids first start running in the winter. So often it's in December, it could be in January, until the official outdoor track practice starts. So in Colorado, we're doing that 2 weeks from Monday, right? The 3rd week in February. Sounds like Michigan is doing it March 10th, right? So it's February 24th for Colorado. It's March 10th for Michigan. It could be any of those days. That would be the start of phase 2. Phase 2 is short. It's just from there until the first important meet. So if you think about it, phase 2 is a mix of, hey, we still want to build the aerobic engine. We still want to do long runs. Okay, I'm not a complete Lydiard guy, but long runs are important. But we're probably going to race once or twice in there. So we have to do race pace work too. And then phase 3 is from, hey, first important track meet, that big invitational, or for a JV kid, a meet, midweek that is important, all the way down to the whatever their last race is. And that's a little bit tricky because you have to figure out, is their last race state? Is it regionals? Is it conference? But if they run great, they could run a time that gets them into regionals, things like that. So and then Danny's helping a coach out here, saying it's not as hard as it might seem to get these kids to run place, to run the race pace. And I think effort is really important, right? We're running these by feel. Now, there are workouts in the track training system when we're doing race pace workouts where, obviously the 218 girl is going to run some workouts where she comes through at 68.5. The 520 girl, that's 80s per 400. We're going to run 80s and then we're going to speed up, right? So we set her up to be able to do that. Roger says, I've used the TTS calendars only as guide, but some are for 16 and 32 hours. They may be also 800. Well, what makes sense? Great question. I like the 1600 as home base. In my training systems, and this is, kind of baked in what are the free stuff tonight. I don't do the British Miler 5-pace system, like write it down and put it in the training system, but I pretty much have it in the back of my head. And here's what it is. If the 1600 is our home base, the athlete with the right training will be good at 3200, one race above, one distance above, will be good at 800, one distance below. So by focusing on the 1600, and I spent more time making sure the 1600 meter training is awesome, so that Roger, you have kids that can do both of those. But that kid should also be able to run a good cross country race, and maybe they're not as good in cross country as they are at the 1600. That could be a type of kid. And they might not be on your varsity 4x4, but they can't be horrible at running 400 meters, right? So that's what those 5 paces are. But then I really think, and Roger, you're in Colorado. Yeah. And Roger, that's one thing too, is like, we can run the 1600 meters when it's a little cold, even if it's sleeting a little bit, you could still run a good 1600 meters. Make sure that a kid who's truly an 800, 1600 kid, and this applies to everybody, when the weather's good, that's the week where you might shift gears, call an audible, and put them in the 800. You might have them run 4x8, open 8, because even if they're a true 1600 meter runner, because it's just more fun to get that done when the weather's good. Okay. Yeah. So Ben's saying the kids always want to race the progression of strides. And when I say 3200 feels like 1600, Ben, the only thing I would say, that's a decent problem to have, them running too fast, as long as they're recovered from it. Right. I think too often people aren't running fast enough, but if they end up running all out every time, then obviously, yeah, that's maybe a little too fast. And Ben, one of the things you can do is just one day at practice, even though this seems like it might be a throwaway practice, just time them doing hundreds. Ryan Godfrey is a coach who's a great 800 meter coach. And one time I saw a practice of his when he was coaching at North Dakota State, and he had amazing world-class 800 meter kids, and he'd just do 10 by 100. And they'd stand around in between and they'd run 800 meter. This was their easy day. Okay. And sometimes instead of going for an aerobic run, they would just do 10 by 100, or maybe it's 12 by 100. So you could do that and say, hey, I want you to run 4 hundreds at 32, and then 4 at 1600. And now we're going to do 4 by 100 at 800, really short rest, and make them time it. And I'd give them like a 15, 20 meter run in, run out. That's something you could do. And then Roger, we do 100 meter pace after a 300 race pace, 18 seconds to feel it. Yeah. Danny says, I usually have them run race they are currently running best, no matter the distance, let them go up or down. Jerry says, what do you think would be the first lap of 213? 65, 66? Yeah, I really like 65 point, and then I think that would be 67 point. Okay, so if there was 66, now they've got to run 67 flat. Basically, Jerry, I like 2 seconds. I think for high school kids, we want a 2-second separation. Okay, and if you set this girl up to run 65, and then she's 65 point, 67 point, or 67 flat, that then maybe she's set up to run 212 at some point. So you're really close to that. Okay. Okay, so I'll make that separate video. Richard says make it as well. Jerry says, Tony, holler, feed this cat stuff is good. To me, similar ideas, run at race pace as soon as you can. Absolutely. My athletic director has approved the purchase of both systems or cross-country training system. Wants me to hold off. Any advice to help me get through the track season? Christian, that's a great question. Hey, I've had people tell me I share so much information for free. Why would you ever invest in the training systems? That's not true. You have a lot of stuff you can leave tonight with, right? You know that you can take your race pace workouts and you're just going to add a fast, faster, faster element. You're going to read about the ways you build the aerobic engine with those 5 workouts. We're going to do long runs. We're going to do fartlek the first week. Then we're going to do a progression run the second week, fartlek the third week, progression run the fourth week. Then we're going to do aerobic repeats. Those are similar to what Tom Schwartz calls critical velocity. Some people would just call, what would Jack Daniels call it? I mean, it's basically a type of threshold running, right? But we're chopping it into chunks, right? It's basically 10,000 meter pace. That's a great workout. The 30-90 fartlek. Again, when you go to that link, these are under cross-country workouts, but you can use those. Another big tip tonight, okay, that you're going to use. You're going to take out the long run with 5 or 6 weeks to go. And when you want to build the aerobic engine, you're going to do a progression run or the 30-90 fartlek. You are not going to do long runs. And I feel like that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they keep the long run in too long, especially for the 800 kid, but even for the 1600 meter runner. So yeah, but I'll look forward to helping you during cross country too. Okay, Richard. Fantastic question. How many days of recovery would you take after your 4x400, 2x500 hard effort? Here's my favorite week. We always work backwards. We want the Invitational on Saturday, pre-race on Friday. Thursday, we do a 48-hour workout, and I've got different workouts for each distance. So let's say it was a 1600 kid. Wednesday, super easy. What are we doing Tuesday? We're doing this workout. So we do on a Tuesday workout before a Saturday meet. Now, a lot of people like to have a hard practice on Monday. I like my schedule better for a Saturday meet. I also like on Monday, we show up and they have fun and we kind of gossip and we love being at track practice. But then you tell them you better bring it tomorrow. Tuesday is going to be hard because remember, our hard days are really hard. So now we've worked out hard on Tuesday. Richard, Wednesday is really, really easy. The 48-hour workout is a wrinkle to what I do. And it is a workout, but it's not a killer hard day. So I guess it's a medium day. It's really just neuromuscularly. I want them ready to race 48 hours later. Our pre-race day is really shorter than most, and then they race. Now, if you're saying, Jay, what do we do if we have a Friday workout? We move everything back. So now we do that workout Monday, very easy Tuesday, 48-hour on Wednesday, pre-race. And I'm putting, the pre-race down here on Thursday because it's easy, race on Friday. We don't do a long run on Saturday. We're going easy. We never do back-to-back hard days in my training. And if anything, we do something hard, go 2 days easy before the next hard thing. Great question. And going back to Christian, now you know how to organize your week. Okay, there you go. Anyone have 400 kids that are trying to move up? Yeah, I think that's always great. Anybody chime in with the mentality for that? Yeah, Ben, I think those hundreds would be great. Roger says the track training system gives you a home base. Thank you. Danny says, I did the same using Jay's cross country all along with the free PDFs to cross check. The basics you use are transferable. Using the free stuff gave me the data for getting the cross country training system. Lots of nice positive things. I appreciate this. Roger says, love the 30-90. Yeah. So it's a 30-90 fartlek. I'm going to let you go here to read about it. It's under the best cross country workouts. It's the last one I talk about of the 5. Man, kids love it. And there's times, so like in cross country, when we don't do a long run, I like progression runs. I like them to be controlled. It's a great aerobic stimulus. But going back to the question that, who was it, had it about how many rest days that Richard had, Richard, they can recover from a progression run pretty easy. But in track, just 20, 25, or 20, 24 minutes, because it's, 30 seconds, 90 seconds is a 2-minute chunk. Anywhere from 18 to 20 to 22 to 24 minutes of the 30-90 fartlek is a great way to still keep that aerobic engine. We're still building it, but they're going to recover from it and they have fun. So I really love that. Danny says the 48-hour workouts are really good. The kids love it. The other thing about the 48-hour workout, and I kind of forget this too, kids are starting to get nervous 48 hours out, right? And this is a way to, hey, let's spike up. Let's go to the track. Like, let's get some of that energy out. So that's a good one. Please do address the kids that don't do XC or the kids that took a break off completely. Adrian, great question. So the 3 most important documents, the progression of strides, right? And then the no prior training plan. Okay. Actually, why don't we go in there? I wasn't thinking quite. Adrian, this is a great. Okay, I gotta find it. It's probably. You guys have been great. There's a lot of questions. You guys are really engaged. This is awesome. Okay. So the no prior training. So what are we doing here? Folks, this is awesome. Adrian, was it Adrian? I'm so glad that you asked this question. This is awesome. Okay, because we're going to go into it right here. So the very first day, we do Jeff's warm up. All they do is 6 by 100 meter strides on the turf with 60 seconds recovery. Red easy. That's all they do. Day 2, they do a 200, a 200, a 150, and a 150 with jogging recovery. So what that means is they run a 200 and they have to be moving the whole time. So they run the 200, from the 200 start to the finish line, and then they have to jog. They run one more 200. Now they're jogging. Then they run 150. Then they jog. If I have my math right, it's not even 4 laps, right? And Adrian, the point that you're asking here that's so important is we have to keep these kids healthy. Now, if you don't believe that consistency is key, I'm not your guy. You need to find some other high school, consultant, coach guy. But I believe that consistency is key. And my experience has shown me that if kids, here's the deal. There's a million things that are hard about being a high school coach. Getting kids to run fast, especially this group, is not hard. Give kids 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 weeks of injury-free running where there's no interruptions in training. Their PRs are going to go like that. And it's going to be awesome. They're going to have a blast. Now, if you're here and you're like, Jay, I've got a girl who's run 216. I've got a boy who's run 156. The PRs don't come that easy. Absolutely. But you need to be doing the same thing, and we need to value consistency. So if you're looking at this saying, Jay, this isn't enough running, this is what's going to keep kids healthy. So 3rd day, 6 by 100 meters. The first real run they do is a 10-minute run where they do some strides on the turf afterwards. And now they're doing a circuit for 20 minutes. Then this is the first hard thing they've done is Friday. I'm not going to go into the circuits. There's QR codes that'll take you to free YouTube videos, all that good stuff. Then Saturday and Sunday are basically off. Now, we're going to do an 800 workout here. We're going to do 3 300s, okay? And then we're just going to do a 10-minute run. Then here we're going to do 200, 200, 150, 150, 120, 120. If you're like, Jay, this is too much track work, we've got to get them ready to race because they're going to race in week 4 down here, right? So they're going to run a 1600. They got a pre-race day. And I just think that too often we don't have kids running race pace ready to race. The other thing is race pace running is more fun than just going out. Those kids, they don't really want, like, they're the opposite of your cross country kids, right? Your cross country kids, my daughter, I have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school. Her favorite thing about practice is getting to run and talk with her friends. Okay. She loves that. But these kids who are new to the sport, they don't know how nice it is to be able to go for a 20 or 30 or 40-minute run with your friends. So, but what they do like is the social part. They're going to do Jeff's warm up, and then they're going to, maybe run 10 minutes and then do some strides. But the old way of saying the very first thing we do with those kids is we want to get them up to a 45 or an hour long run, a 45-minute run or an hour long run as soon as possible. That is not what we're doing. What does Jerry have to say? Just had 2 kids PR last week following your plan. Lifetime bests in February. Fantastic. Love it. Another thing too, Jerry, you got to tell them you're just going to run faster month after month after month. It's 2025, February 2025. In February 2022, I was pretty sure this training would work, but I had never done a whole system that you could use with boys and girls, small schools, big schools, New England indoor meets all the way to San Diego. San Diego is a bad example. Better example would be like Texas, where the season ends really early, and then also Wisconsin, where the coaches can't even meet them. And it's crazy. Iowa and Wisconsin, the coaches can't meet their kids right now. So it works everywhere. And I think the thing that what's so cool about Jerry's team and program right now is they're going to run faster in March, faster in April, faster in May. This idea that we're going to peak early by going to the track and doing this stuff, that's not how it works. Okay. Danny, you got a call with coaches from the Boulder Running Clinic. Awesome. Michelle, interested in the cross-country training system a year. Oh, you invested in it this year. Love the system. No prior training, kids progressed and were able to be competitive and continue to improve. Yeah. So what are the 3 most important things? The progression of strides for free, the no prior training plan for free. And then I think the 800 plan that's in there will be helpful for people similar to no prior training, in that, we're not making the focus, oh, let's get in a long run. We're making the focus, no, let's groove 800 pace. Okay. Oh, wow. Jen knows Michelle. Awesome. Yeah. Are you guys in Michigan? Bellwood. I don't know where Bellwood is. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody for staying on live. 60, or I was just say 62, hour and 2 minutes, 62. I was thinking half marathon times. When I was coaching some semi-pro and professional runners, 62:35, which is what the running time is on our class tonight, would have been really fast. And now these days with super shoes, it's not that fast. So, okay. If there's any more questions, we can take those. Why don't I throw up these slides just to go through them? So, for our boy, here's what I think the split should look like. So I really like that 2-second differential, 58.5, 60.5. Why? Because it sets him up to run 1:58.5 when he can go 58.5, 60, and then maybe 58.5, 59.5. And then, somebody who is a 1:57 person, but still grooving 58.5, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to run 59.0. Just 58.5 for this athlete is going to set them up on a different trajectory. Oh, you guys are in PA. Awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting how people find these training systems. There's several coaches in PA that have it. So it's great. Ben, you're welcome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll put this one more time in here. And there'll be links for my book. The book is on Amazon. I'm gonna put that in here too. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'm not gonna put it on the screen. But yeah, the book is on Amazon, and then there's bulk bundles. I'll have that on this webpage if you want to invest in books. Definitely not here to be selling you books necessarily, but it's $16.75 on Amazon. But when you buy a bundle, it could be $11 or $10 or $9, depending on how many you get. Eric, always great to see you. Mike said some plans start at 24 and count down. Yes, Mike, I changed that, how I did that. Some of them start at 24 because I was like, how many weeks to state? Now I don't like to organize it that way. I basically that's the Track Training Essentials document. The one that you get tonight when you share your email is that one. Then if you download it tonight, give me 4 or 5 days. I'm going to upload different documents that have that Thursday workout in, and we start the counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I mean, some coaches do it, 24 weeks to state, but I think it makes more sense to say week 1. Okay. So have a great spring. Jen says, Jen, I look forward to seeing you at a meet. I'm going to be God willing, I'll be at a track meet on Saturday to watch my daughter and watch some other friends. Run fast and turn left. I love it, Brian. Okay. Michelle, thanks, Jay. I always learn something in every session. Can't wait to read the updated version of the book. And the book, so what's new? Chapter on mental skills, chapter on health sciences, chapter on recruiting. Niwot is a new team that's featured, and then the Woodlands in Texas. So, Mike, you're absolutely welcome. I'm blessed to be able to make a living in running and be able, it's awesome. It's awesome to even be able to say that. So really appreciate it. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. And I plan on doing some more live classes this year. Still kind of catching up from Boulder Running Clinic stuff. But thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah, and go Angels and go Demons. Denver East, where my daughter runs, they're the Angels, and Jen coaches at Golden, and they're the Demons. So how funny, Angels and Demons. I didn't even get it. That's probably why you put it in there too. Super funny. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.